The haunting calls. You receive phone calls from people who have passed away. But what do these phone calls really mean? Are they trying to tell us something? Or is it simply our minds playing tricks on us? Let's find out in today's episode of Haunting Calls. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Do subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for never missing out on any of our spine-chilling stories. So let's begin with today's story without any further ado. Number 9, The Call from Beyond. It was late at night and Sarah was snuggled up in bed watching her favorite TV show. Suddenly, her phone, which was charging beside her, lit up, startling her. She picked up the phone and saw an unknown caller. Being the cautious person that she is, Sarah hesitated but eventually answered the call. On the other end, Sarah could hear what sounded like a woman's faint whisper. "Sarah, it's me." The voice seemed familiar, but Sarah couldn't quite place it. "Who is this? How did they know her name?" she wondered aloud, her heart pounding in her chest. Just as she was about to hang up, the voice continued. "Help me, Sarah! Please help me!" Sarah was now wide awake and listening intently. "Help me!" the voice pleaded again, this time with more urgency. Before Sarah could respond or ask any questions, the line went dead. She looked at the screen and noticed that the call was coming from a local area code. The next day, Sarah decided to return the call, but it went straight to voicemail. Puzzled and somewhat frightened by the mysterious call, Sarah tried the number again a few days later, but it was disconnected. Sarah couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling that the call had brought back. She began to question if it was just a prank call or something more sinister. Weeks went by, and Sarah almost forgot about the eerie incident until one day she was going through some old photo albums when she came across a picture that made her blood run cold. It was a picture of her and her late grandmother. And as she stared at the image, she realized that the voice on the phone had belonged to her grandmother. Overwhelmed with emotion, Sarah felt a sense of closure knowing that it was just her grandmother trying to connect with her one last time. No, wait. A father's love. Michael had always been close to his father, sharing a deep bond with him. Even after his untimely death, Michael often thought of his father and missed his guidance and love. One evening, while Michael was sitting alone in his room, his phone rang. He picked it up and was surprised to see his father's name flashing on the screen. Confused and shocked, he answered the call. To his astonishment, his father's voice came through the phone. "Hello, Michael. Is that you?" his father asked. Overwhelmed with emotion, Michael could only manage a shaky response. "Dad, how is this possible?" he stammered, tears welling up in his eyes. "I don't understand." His father's voice, although faint, held a sense of warmth and familiarity that brought comfort to Michael. They talked for hours, catching up on each other's lives and sharing their thoughts and feelings. Michael poured out his heart, expressing the sadness he had felt since his father's passing and the struggles he had faced in moving forward. His father listened patiently, offering words of encouragement and reminding Michael of his strength. As the conversation continued, Michael felt a sense of peace and healing come over him. It was as if his father was there beside him, offering the support and guidance he had always provided. When the call ended, Michael felt lighter and stronger, knowing that his father's love and support would always be with him, even beyond the grave. Number 7. Whispers from Beyond. Emma had always been fascinated by the paranormal, but she never expected to experience anything herself. One night while lying in bed, her phone started to ring. Startled, Emma looked at the screen and saw that it was her deceased grandmother calling her. Overwhelmed with surprise, she hesitated for a moment before picking up the call. On the other end, Emma could hear what sounded like her grandmother's faint whisper. "Emma, is that you?" The voice was weak and distant, but it was undoubtedly her grandmother's. Emma, still in shock, managed to reply, "Yes, it's me, Grandma. Is that really you?" A moment of silence followed, and then her grandmother's voice whispered again, "I need your help." Hearing her grandmother's plea, Emma immediately sat up in bed, her heart pounding in her chest. "What can I do to help you?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. But as she waited for a response, the line went dead. Emma tried to call back, but the call didn't go through. She couldn't shake off the eerie experience, wondering if it was a prank or something more sinister. Days went by, and Emma couldn't focus on anything else except her grandmother's call. She couldn't understand why her grandmother needed her help or what she was supposed to do. Overwhelmed with worry and confusion, Emma decided to visit her grandmother's grave. As she stood beside the headstone, she closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, asking for guidance and clarity. When she opened her eyes, she noticed a small white flower growing out of the ground beside the headstone. It was strange, because no flowers were planted there, and she couldn't remember placing them. Emma carefully plucked the flower and brought it home. She placed it in a vase and kept it on her desk, hoping that her grandmother would somehow communicate with her again. Days turned into weeks, and Emma's hope of receiving another sign from her grandmother began to fade. She started to believe that it was all in her head, just a figment of her imagination. However, one night as Emma was getting ready for bed, she noticed that the flower had wilted and dried up. Startled by this sudden change, she examined it closely, and that's when she saw it. Hidden beneath the leaves was a small piece of paper with a message written on it. Unfolding the paper, Emma read the message and her heart skipped a beat. It said, "Thank you for helping me." Overwhelmed with emotion, Emma realized that it was indeed her grandmother trying to communicate with her. Her grandmother had found a way to let her know that she was grateful for her love and support, even from beyond the grave. Number 6. The voice in the static. John was an avid hiker, spending every free moment exploring the trails in the nearby woods. But on one fateful day, his passion for hiking turned into a terrifying ordeal that left him questioning the boundaries between the living and the dead. It was a crisp autumn afternoon when John decided to venture into his favorite hiking spot. As he walked along the familiar path, he enjoyed the scenic beauty of the changing leaves and the soothing sound of birds tweeting in the trees. But as the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the trees, John realized that he had lost track of time and he was running out of daylight. Panic started to set in as he tried to retrace his steps, but the darkening sky and the dense foliage made it difficult to navigate the winding trails. Just when he thought he might be lost forever, he heard a faint voice calling out to him. "John, come this way. John, can you hear me?" The voice seemed to come from the trees ahead of him, and against his better judgment, he decided to follow it. As he walked deeper into the woods, the voice grew louder, guiding him through the darkness. But as he turned toward the direction of the voice, he saw nothing but a thick wall of trees and underbrush. He called out, "Hello, is anyone there?" But the only response he received was the sound of his own voice echoing back at him. Suddenly, the voice he had been hearing spoke again, this time closer and more urgent. "Help me, John, please help me." The voice was filled with desperation, and John felt a surge of adrenaline course through his body. Determined to find the source of the voice, he pushed through the underbrush and emerged into a small clearing. And that's when he saw it. In the middle of the clearing stood a weathered wooden house, its windows boarded up and its front door hanging precariously from its hinges. As he approached the house, the voice grew stronger, beckoning him closer. John hesitated for a moment, torn between his curiosity and his fear. But the voice continued to call out to him, and eventually he reached out and knocked on the door. But as he knocked, a loud crash came from inside the house, and the voice suddenly stopped. John jumped back in surprise, his heart racing. He wanted to run, to escape the eerie silence that had fallen over the clearing. But his feet felt heavy as if anchored to the spot. He could hear what sounded like footsteps inside the house, followed by a slow, heavy breathing. Then the front door creaked open, revealing a dark, dusty interior. John stared into the darkness, unable to make out any details. But then a faint light flickered from inside, and he saw a shadowy figure emerge from the darkness. John took a step back, startled by what he was seeing. The figure seemed to be translucent, like a ghost. And as it approached the door, John could make out the features of an emaciated face with hollow eyes and a mournful expression. John wanted to scream, to call out for help, but no sound came out of his mouth. He watched in horror as the ghostly figure stepped out of the house and floated towards him. As it drew closer, John could feel the temperature around him drop, and he could swear he heard the voice again, whispering his name. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the figure vanished. John collapsed to his knees, trembling with fear and disbelief. He had seen a ghost, or so he thought. As he struggled to catch his breath, he noticed that the sky had darkened and rain began to fall. He quickly gathered himself and fled from the clearing, running blindly through the woods until he reached the safety of his car. Once he got home, he recounted his experience to his friends and family, but they dismissed it as a figment of his imagination, perhaps a hallucination brought on by exhaustion and dehydration. But John knew what he had seen and heard. The voice in the static had led him to the haunted house, and the ghost had beckoned him closer. Dear viewers, we've reached the end of today's spine-chilling tale. If you found this video intriguing, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're a fan of our content, hit the subscribe button to never miss out on our most frightening episodes. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What's the scariest call you've ever received? Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.